The NPA's investigating Directorate has approached Interpol to help extradite some members of the Gupta family. The Directorate spokesperson, Sindisiwe Seboka, joins us now to discuss today's development. Sindisiwe, thank you so much for your time on the lead this afternoon. So the assets are to the value of 520 million rand. What are they?
So the order that we received from the Bloemfontein High Court is an unlimited restraint order for starters. So the 500 million rand that is making the rounds pertains to the sum or total figure that we detected through investigations was at a time at the island site. So money that was coming in and out of that particular company through various other companies that we believe Island Site was then used as the money laundering vehicle. So we're saying that the properties that we restrained today include the Saxon Road house worth over 12 million, a Cape Town house. We also restrained the assets of Iqbal Sharma. This includes a 12 million house that was actually aired on a NABA program where Tarina Patel was part and parcel, showing people around in that particular house. So that house has been restrained, including a jewelry held in that particular premises, paintings and the likes worth a plus minus 500,000 rand, and. But what I think I need to highlight is that this particular restraint order does not only pertain to assets in South Africa. This also pertains to assets offshore.
Were the Guptas still owning these assets that have been seized?
That's the most interesting finding that we found in our investigation. So Island Site is a company that the Gupta brothers still owned, Rajesh and Abdul, as well as their wives. So then these assets were then put in that particular company. So we are saying that this is one of two, but this Island Site company is the main one, or subject of contention, or subject of that particular court order that still held significant assets in South Africa. We know that many of the other assets are not actually in South Africa anymore.
What does it all mean, Sindisiwe? Yesterday you issued a red notice for Interpol to arrest the Gupta brothers. Some of the Gupta associates appeared in court this week on the Stina Dairy Farm case. Today you are attaching their assets. There are a lot of movements, but you want them here to face the law, but they're not here.
So what this means, just to explain, the strategy of the investigating directorate currently in this case, though, in particular this case, is that we have brought the accused, 17 accused. This includes actual persons and companies and the Gupta brothers, their wives, and additional persons that are currently out of the country. This means that the criminal process has begun in earnest. We are then using that particular case to fulfill the requirements required by the UAE in order to possibly fast-track its extradition to then account in that particular case, because they've been saying, we hear this aspect, but what exactly is it that they've done? You cannot then allege that they've done 1, 2, 3 if there are no concrete evidence pointing to them. So we have a warrant of arrest issued in South Africa. We also have mentioned them in the charge sheets in South Africa in a court of law. Those were one of the requirements some of the requirements that the UAE had required. And then we also invoked the treaty that South Africa has with India for the extradition processes. So that's the one aspect. The second aspect is that then we started the process. We mentioned that the process has just begun to then get Interpol to possibly red flag them so that they assist us in possibly also getting them back into the country. In the same token, we're trying our best to prohibit the assets that we can lay our hands on, because it's common cause. People already know that some of the assets have already left the country. So the ones that we can, through our hardworking team that works a long hours, could find is through Island Site. So those particular properties can then be restrained. The restraining order is to then give us an opportunity to not lose further assets in the process of finalizing or starting and concluding possibly with the criminal case. We said in court yesterday that, so just to go back. So when the process then concludes in the criminal case, then we'll bring an application to possibly confiscate these assets to the state. So what we're saying is we're moving as quickly but as thoroughly as possible in order to make sure that they do account.
I'm glad you mentioned as thoroughly because one may argue, I hear you say you've got a strong case against them, but say they are extradited, they are in South Africa tomorrow. You are confident that you have a strong case against them and you will successfully prosecute them?
What we want to lay bare to South Africans to understand is that the Guptas that we want to extradite is in particular to the case that we brought to the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court yesterday. This is the feasibility study that we said they pocketed. So we're saying we want them to come account on that. But we've also mentioned in court that our investigations are finalized. We're ready to hand over the docket. We're not going to postpone endlessly in order to conclude our investigations. They're done. We're ready to hand over the docket. So we are requesting that they be brought back. But I always emphasize that the extradition process from our side might have begun in earnest, but it's still for the receiving state rather, to then make a decision whether to extradite them or not.